Hello, my name is Edward Chavez, and I'm doing my reflection on the 10 Little Indians theme project. Today, I'm going to be expressing why I chose the theme, which is identity, and the quotes and images that went along with it. So, for the first quote I used, when they were young, some authority figures had told them to pick up a wrench, and so they picked up a wrench and never considered what would happen if they picked up a pencil or a book. Now, with that, I feel like it correlates to identity simply because of the fact that it's telling you what society thinks and what society wants you to be, whereas people struggle because sometimes they can't conform to what society wants and simply just want to express who they are. Now, the image that I used with that was this image of what society wants me to think, which is the ABCs, one, two, threes, letters, shapes. And then on the next side, you have what I think, which is this whole complex idea. And it's very unique, it's very creative. And so I feel like this is a great way to kind of contrast how what society tells us versus what we want and what we could have done if we chose to just stay true to who we are and who we want to be. The next one that I chose was in Washington State University Library. Her vision of Sherwood Forest. Corliss walked the poetry stacks. She endured the continuous and passionate relationship with the library. The huge number of books confirmed how much magic she'd been denied for most of her life, and now she's hungrily ready. She's hungrily wanted to read every book on every shelf. So I chose this quote simply because I look at the library as opportunities and self discovery. And I see Corliss in this sense wanting to better find herself through these books. And so the picture that I used was kind of like a wall with a light bulb and a woman walking through it simply because it's somebody seeing their opportunities, seeing it as a way of discovering yourself. And so she's kind of walking through these opportunities to see what the other side has to offer. So I related that to identity simply because Corliss is going through the libraries and she has this relationship with the library simply because she can be herself and she discovers herself through poetry, through reading, through the library in general. So that's why I chose that quote. The next one, she knew there would come a day when white folks finally understood that Indians are every bit as relentless, boring, selfish, and smelly as they are, and that would be a wonderful day for human rights, but a terrible day for Corliss. I chose this quote because, to me, the sense of identity is that, in a sense, everything comes back to being uniform, to being one, whereas Corliss, she feels that she is unique, she's an individual, she is very passionate of who she is and how she is. So, although, it would be great for humanity, for Corliss, it would just be another obstacle that she would have to face simply because she is misunderstood by society. And so with that, the picture I chose was a blurred crowd simply because it's like uniform, everybody looks the same, there's really no difference. So I chose that simply as a way of like showing uniform, showing blending, and showing how society as a whole would be consumed and how not one person would stand out. The next quote I used was, "Can a book rightfully be called a book if it never gets read?" That one stood out the most to me simply because it's like, if I'm different, am I considered good or bad? And in Corliss's situation, it really brings out identity simply for the fact that she is different. She is a native Indian, and for her to kind of branch out and be the nail standing out that wants to get hammered, I feel that this this sentence right by itself just simply expresses how Corliss is and how she stands out and how she's very much misunderstood. So the picture I chose was an umbrella, crowded and with one yellow umbrella standing out, and I felt like that was perfect simply because that yellow umbrella represents the one individual who stands out, versus everything else that looks the same. The next one that I chose was she wanted to say everything. She wanted to scream it, but she knew she'd be punished for disrespecting her elders because she was an Indian. She'd been taught to fear, hate, and hate white people. So that to me, I feel like it struggles with identity because Corliss is everything that her father doesn't want her to be. You know, she has her own mind, she has her own opinion. So for her to kind of have to hold back on her true beliefs and how she feels simply because it's disrespectful in her culture. Um, that's why that quote stuck very much out to me and why I feel like it conforms with identity because it's someone who wants to express who they truly are but they can't. And so I chose the picture of a kid being bullied simply for the fact where the kid has their own mind and they want to be able to express themselves. And as you can see with the brain portion, that it's a little bit bigger because they're more open-minded and more understanding. And those with the smaller brain area, it's kind of like they're a little bit more closed off um, and less open. So now we're getting to the end, so bear with me. How could an Indian live and work in the United States and not leave one piece of paper to mark his passage? That one I thought was a great one simply because when it comes to identity, it's kind of like this person's identity is mysterious, it's misunderstood, it's um, undiscovered. So for that, when I read that part, I thought right away, you know, this correlates with identity because it's like, how can you identify somebody if there's no trace of them? So the picture I used was no caller ID simply because like with that, like it's always mysterious. It's always like I wonder who it is, how it, you know, what they want. And so I chose that picture to correlate with this simply because it's just a sense of like being unidentified altogether. The next one is long ago, as part of the passage into adulthood, young Indians used to wander into the wilderness in search of a vision, in search of a meaning of definition, who I am and who I'm supposed to be. I chose this one simply because it's self-discovery. It's searching for who you are, finding your purpose, finding your reason, finding your true identity. And so I chose a person like screaming up simply because all these it's all these like words, all these, you know, meanings, and it's simply just like a cry out for like who am I, what am I. So that's why I chose that. The next one, maybe she was only confused indigenous woman negotiating her way through a colonized maze. So for this one, I see it as like Corliss is lost, her identity is lost, she's struggling to truly identify with who she is, what she wants to be. And so I chose the lost and very lost picture simply because it's her having to kind of decide whether she wants to be lost in one culture or in another. The next one, you're not supposed to be like this. You're supposed to be somebody better. I need you to be somebody better. I feel like with identity, Corliss was looking to Atwater to think that he would have all the answers as to who she could be, who she would want to be, and because she discovered that he was nothing like what she expected, she was very disappointed. So to me, it was a sense of like thinking you have hope of discovering who you truly are. Then coming to realize that you still have to keep looking because the answers aren't going to be presented in front of you. It's something that you have to go out and adventure and learn for yourself. And so the last one comes to, but there comes a time when the Indian stops waiting, and when that time came for Corliss, she took Harlan Atwater's book to the poetry section, placed it with the front cover outward for all the world to see, and then she left the book and began her small journey back home. So for this, it's kind of like she hit a dead end in trying to find out who she is, and so for her, instead of sitting and weeping about it, she decided to get back up and go out into the world searching for herself again, and realizing that that's the only way that you can find your identity is by simply constant and repetitive discoveries. Thank you.